Sabotage! 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 Ours is 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 ours. Sabotage. Sabotage. Here's how I want to start the live stream today. Whichever one of you SOBs was at that McDonald's and called in the United Health person, I thought we had an agreement. I thought we were going to let this one slide. Okay. Oh no. Oh, sorry. That's some sample content from my new podcast. Joshua Bardwell weighs in on social events. Sorry, wrong podcast. Okay. I don't do that. Not here. Here we talk about FPV. And answer your questions. And that's what I'm going to do. We're going to get right to it. We're not going to have too much screwing around. We're basically going to go straight to answering questions. We already got a bunch of questions queued up. Some of them actually pretty high quality questions. If you're new here and you don't know how this works, you ask questions. Blunty queues the questions up. Blunty, you got your Q-in finger ready?
Yeah.
It's a mouse, I assume, right? So index finger?
That's correct. Yeah.
Hey, we're on a roll. You want to weigh in on that topic? You want to just move on? Come on. You feeling it today, Blunty? Feeling spicy?
No.
You're not? Okay, fair enough. Thought there was a chance. Here's how I want to start. I'm going to put you a tiny bit on the spot if you'll allow me to. The first question we're going to do today is, what happened when Blunty tried the AG01 gimbals for the first time? So I thought you and I were talking about this before the stream, and the whole time we were talking about it, it was like, oh, I wish the stream had started yet. And then I realized I could just ask you again. And people always ask, are the AG01 gimbals worth it? Right? You've never thought they were worth it. Up until now, you've been like, no, it's too much money. It's not worth it. So what made you get the AG01 gimbals finally?
Well, there was a sale on the Boxer Crush for $120 around Black Friday. So I felt like it was impossible not to spend $120 on a Boxer Crush with AG01s. It seemed like the thing to do. Yeah. Yeah, my thought process has always been that $130 is way too much money to spend on AG01 gimbals alone. So, yeah, we finally got them, though. I will say they feel great. I was using gimbals from 2019, a T16 stock gimbal from 2019, the Hall Effect version. Yeah, they were getting old. I mean, you could feel the crunch when you when you move them,
So, to be really fair and scientific, we should get you a brand new set of regular non-AG01 gimbals, but, this is just a sort of an experiential thing. What do you think of the AG01s now that you got them?
I think they're great, and I think that when I look at the Boxer Crush at $200, which is the normal price for what I'm getting, I feel like that's pretty fair for the quality of gimbals and the radio so far. I mean, it's new, right? Mm-hmm. But it seems like a fair price because previously it was like $350 or $400 or something for $130 for just the gimbals and then whatever radio
I got you. Yeah, you would buy the Boxer for $110 something dollars, and then another $130 for the AG01 gimbal set, putting you at over $200 for the radio as a whole. And God forbid you got the TX16S, because that thing I think it's over $300 with the AG01s if you get the metal one and everything. So, but yeah, $120 for that's like regular Boxer prices, and you're basically getting the AG01s for free. So you do think there's a definite noticeable difference in terms of just the feel.
From what I was using, yes. Just overall, they feel just smoother in general. But I mean, obviously, I was using old beat-up plastic gimbals. But I'm assuming that's because the gimbals were wearing more than the metal gimbals would. So I guess time will tell as to how that works out.
we'll check back in with you in 5 years, and we'll see how your AJ1s are holding up. They should hold up basically perfectly. Like there's bearings, right? But they're like actual ball bearings, and they're not really under any stress whatsoever. So the bearings should last basically forever, unless you like just bury the thing in the sand. And after that, there's no really mechanical parts to wear, so they really should hold up, you would think. So, yeah, cool.
Absolutely.
Well, I thought that would make a nice little content to open up the live stream with, and I also thought it might make a good clip for the live stream clips channel. So I thought I'd just get that right out of the way, and I'll let you go back to queuing up questions. So, Blunty is going to be queuing the questions here from the regular live stream. He's going to be queuing the questions from the Discord server over on the right. Oh, shit, Blunty, how did I not do that? Oh, man, my bad. There you go. I got you. All good now. Yeah, these people are my patrons. They sign up for me on patreon.com, and that means that they get my just a little bit more attention, during the live stream. Seems fair. And if you hit the $sign down here and you leave a super chat, then I'll read those questions. Starting at about the 25-minute mark, we'll just start reading super chats and we'll just keep going. But I like to get a couple of questions from the non-super chats out of the way, just to start the stream off on a nice little egalitarian foot, right? So, let's do it. We're going to start with a question from the Discord. This question is from Slinky13, who says, behind my house I have a park with a jungle gym, a couple baseball fields, and a moderately spaced trees. What do you recommend as a complement to my 5-inch quad that can work better, especially around the jungle gym, but has enough power to deal with wind and explore the rest of the park? I'm thinking the Flywoo Firefly Nano Baby 1S. So let me just pull that up. Here's the Flywoo Firefly Baby Nano. I love this quad. This is a great little quad, a great little 1.6-inch ripper. You have to be okay with the fact that it doesn't have prop guards. Now, yes, it comes with these prop guards that you can install. No, don't do that. They add weight. They make it fly worse. That's like not the point. It's like putting training wheels on a freaking Harley or something, right? I don't think so. If you do it and it works for you, more power to you. I wouldn't steer you. I'd say if you're going to go that direction, buy something made to work with prop guards from the beginning. But I would just fly this thing with no prop guards, and it's pretty good. But I got to say, based on what you're describing, I probably would encourage you to get the 2-inch version. And it's going to be a 2S battery instead of a 1S battery. It's going to have 2-inch props, and it's just going to have just a little bit more power for what you're describing, especially the trees. Like if you hadn't mentioned the trees, maybe it's just going to be a little bit more versatile in the wind, a little bit better able to handle the trees, get up and over the trees and stuff. And I think I would steer you towards the 2S, the 2-inch version. If your heart's set on the 1.6, I don't think it's a wrong decision. It's going to be really good around the jungle gym and the tighter areas, but just it's going to not quite have as much sort of punch to get up over the trees if you're trying to do little pops over the trees and stuff. So, and as Flyby James points out, don't get either of those quads caught in the tree, because they're not going to have enough power probably to shake themselves out. Frankly, they're so small you're barely going to be able to see them. So, definitely a good warning. All right, well, hopefully that's the answer you're looking for. Here's one from Batboy2021 who asks, my drone goes full throttle when I'm trying to land, like it hits the floor and it blasts up. Any thoughts? Pit tuning, wiring, etc. Batboy said, I have the tutorial kit, and I asked him what kit, the QAVS, that's my tutorial kit. Okay. Usually what that means is that there is a problem with the flight controller. Like, I used to have a newbie drone flight controller that had this problem, and it was a known defect in that run of flight controllers. What's happening is that when you tap the ground, the motors surge, and the combination of like the gyro getting shaken and the surge from the motors, some combination of all that causes the flight controller and the gyro to freak out. This is assuming you're on, frankly, under most sets of assumptions, this is a hardware issue, okay? theoretically, if you have really jacked with the PIDs and filters, maybe you could induce this. But even, frankly, I would think it would be. The problem is that you're not saying that it flies badly, like it wants to fly away in flight. Well, the situation I think you're describing is it mostly flies fine right up to the point where you're landing and you tap the ground and then it freaks out. And in my opinion, that's usually a gyro issue on the flight controller. Make sure your capacitor is installed correctly. If your capacitor has like broken off and come disconnected, that could cause this issue, so definitely double check that. But frankly, like I would lean towards potentially a damaged flight controller or something wrong with the gyro. And I would, if you're sure there's no mechanical issues with the quad, then I would reach out to Get FPV support and explain the issue to them and see what they say. And I'm always very careful when I make that recommendation to say, I can't promise you what the outcome of that will be. Obviously, your hope would be that they'd go, oh, yes, we agree, your flight controller has a problem. We will send you a new flight controller. That's their call to make, and they may have information I don't have, so I can't make that decision for you, but I would encourage you to reach out, assuming your capacitor is correctly installed and everything is like good to go in that respect.
Okay, we got to talk real quick. So I rarely disagree with you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you here.
Okay.
I think if everything is going great other than landing, just don't land with air mode on or land above the ground and your drone's fine, fly it. Who cares?
But like...
Right? It's hitting the ground. The drone's not meant to hit the ground. You're hitting the ground. You're slamming the gyro. The gyro's going to spike like crazy. The PIDs are going to spike up to fling the drone in the air.
I will happily... He says it blasts up. Okay, so hang on.
That's what would happen if you blast the ground, right? You're a noob, you slam the ground from 5 feet, it's going to blast up in the air because your pitch spikes from the gyro.
Okay, here's the thing. I'll go with you partially. I think the argument you're making is that what I'm picturing when he says it blasts up full throttle is this hugely anomalous thing that should never happen, right? Where, you know, like it goes and flies away. And I think what you're proposing is that he's new enough to FPV that he doesn't know that there's a normal amount of bounce back that happens when you tap the ground, and he's going, oh my God, it's a full throttle. Whereas I would look at it and go, oh no, that's completely normal. Just don't do that. Is that what you're proposing?
Yes. Yeah, the often thing that I tell noobs is the drone isn't meant to hit the ground. The drone doesn't know what the ground is, right? So like, if you're describing a situation where you're hitting the ground, you're probably doing something wrong. You should be flying near the ground, you should be disarming and hitting the ground and never really slamming the ground while the drone has throttle up anyway. And he's probably freaking out, as Garderoto points out, and or Big Data Pimp points out, and maybe tapping the throttle up a little bit too. He's new, you know. This is my assumption. When I read this, I think nothing's wrong with the drone. This is a new pilot. Relax. Fly the drone and disarm above the ground.
Well, just reinforcing my appreciation for you having another perspective from mine. Occasionally knowing things I don't know, but adding your perspective. That's a really good observation. And I guess it's up to Bat Boy to sort of decide what that is, because you're 100% right.
He says, I can confirm it was not for 5 feet. It was from like a foot. It did continue to fly for like a few seconds. It hit my ceiling and continued to fly. So he's indoors. So, that's not good.
Well, that's not good. But I would argue that if it bounced off the floor and rebounded all the way to the ceiling, that's not normal. Thoughts?
Maybe he tapped the throttle. I just like...
Possible.
Yeah. I think, especially we're indoors trying to control it, trying to it sounds like he's indoors testing arming and trying to fly up and down. That's already we're in a bad world here. Yeah. This is when you test a drone, you should be going outdoors in a place where you can get in the air a little bit so you're not going to hurt anything. You're a new pilot, you might bump the pitch and slam into a wall, right? We don't know anything about what's going to happen. Yeah. So you should go outdoors, arm the drone, you should work on flying a little bit, and then I'm going to guess what you're describing is that
go ahead. Sorry, finish your thought.
It's just that the drone is spooling up from you slamming the ground, and maybe you're a little new, and that combination of things is causing this issue. That would be my thought process. So because otherwise you're going to see the issues in flight later. Like you're going to think there's a tuning problem, and you're going to need to fix it, right? You're going to have weird vibrations or washout in corners or motor problems, and then you're going to be like, "What's wrong?" And you're going to hear, what you said about the issues with the gyro, and you're going to put two and two together and go, "Hey, maybe there's something wrong with my drone." But to me, just slamming the ground in air mode with a pilot we can't see a video of, to me is just a diagnosis. Yeah.
Fair. So here's what I would say. Number one, 100% agree with Blunty. Don't do this inside. You're asking for trouble. You're asking for a hole in your ceiling, a hole in your wall. Stop. Do not. You have no idea how, well, maybe you do have an idea how violent these things can be. Take it outside, hover it, and then slowly let it descend, and with the throttle all the way down, let it tap the ground. Okay? Do this somewhere safe. Do this at a distance from yourself. But the goal will be to let it land from as low a height as you can. So, like, don't drop it from 3 feet. If you can drop it from 1 foot or 6 inches, even better, right? And what you're going to do, and you're going to want the throttle to be all the way down, and keep it down. And you're going to watch how the drone reacts. And like a normal thing to happen would be the drone would go, right? And it might even go, right? But if it goes, right? I don't think that's normal. I think that's like, you got a problem.
Okay,
that's my thought.
I think you're correct, but we're hunting for a problem. That's what I would say. Like, I never tested a new drone like that, and I've never disarmed a drone by hitting the ground. So I don't even know if my drones do that. Like, I just think about how they fly, right? Like, that's just my 2 cents here. Is like, don't create a problem where there's not one. That's what I would tell a new pilot. Disarm above the ground. If it flies like shit, have a great day, and we'll fix it.
But here's the flip side of that. Let's say that he has a flight controller with a bad gyro. He's flying. He taps a tree. It freaks out the exact same way. I'm concerned that there's a small chance that this is not just a landing issue. People are saying, go to the CLI and change it to easy landing, which would absolutely fix this. Turn air mode off, which would absolutely fix this. Or like Blunty says, just land better, right? But the problem is he's going to be flying. He's going to tap something, and if the driver freaks out, he's going to lose control, and that's an issue that more fundamentally, if he has bad hardware, he deserves to get new hardware, because he should have gotten a good flight controller out of the box. So that's the direction I'm coming from.
That's fair. When we tell new pilots to test stuff, I often don't believe they're going to test it properly, and they're going to create a problem where there's not one. He's going to hit the ground too hard, think something's wrong because it rebounds too high, and then try to get a replacement when he doesn't need one. But he also might discover a problem, like you're saying. I've just never tested a drone like that. You find it in flight, and I know he's new, but like it's not like that's on our first flight procedures normally. Like, at least for me.
Tapping
so like
the ground?
I don't know. Yeah.
Well,
like,
I don't tap the ground normally, but only because generally hardware is not messed up. Like, I had a drone once that it was a big 13-inch X-Class, right? And as soon as you armed, as soon as you could hover it, but as soon as you touch the throttle, it would go and try to fly away. People are loving the noises I'm making in this thread. And it turned out, long story short, it turned out to be the frame was sucked. The frame was too wobbly, and we put on a new frame, and it fixed it. But one of the ways I was testing the changes I would make would be to kind of arm and then just kind of bounce it off the ground and see if I could induce a bad reaction. So, like, if I suspect that there's a problem, I would absolutely bounce it off the ground to see if the problem will manifest, versus putting it in the air and potentially like hitting something at speed and having it go out of control. So
interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
My default thought process has always been the drone's never meant to hit the ground, so why would we test things against the ground? But I see you're saying because there's some situations in which it's easier to do that than have something happen in the air, and we're going to rely on that being similar to a hit on something that would simulate
exactly
a bad situation that would also spool the PIDs up in a bad way.
Or hypothetically, let's say you've got a voltage regulator. That's like sometimes your video transmitter drops out in flight, and you suspect the voltage regulator or the wiring. Right, but no matter how much you inspect it, you mess with the wires and stuff, you can't get it to happen. So you just take it out into a parking lot and you just go doing, 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 and you just bang it around a little bit, and you see if you can get the damn video to drop out. I don't know. It doesn't always work, but sometimes it works.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway,
okay,
great
I feel
conversation.
like that was a good discussion.
Yeah. Well, this live stream's off to a great start. Wow, quality. We're just about to get to the super chats. I see we have a $99.99 super chat from Yostros, currently the most generous super chatter in all of channel history. Thank you again for your generous donation. We will get to that in just about 5 minutes.
You're going to be excited.
Why?
It's your favorite thing, 3D
printing.
printing.
Oh, God. For $100, I'll talk about it again. I'll do a lot of things for $100. No, that costs more than $100. Dude B22 says, what are your best tips for people who have only practiced in the sim and are actually flying IRL? I have 50 hours in the sim. Like, be safe is my first advice. And, number two, I mean, if you have 50 hours in the sim, you're probably going to be okay, relatively in control in real life. But the difference is that in real life, the consequences have consequences, whereas in the sim, nothing is real, which is sort of the point. If you crash and you hit a person, you hit a vehicle, you hit a building, there are consequences, financial or otherwise. And obviously, if you lose your drone, that's another thing that's different from the sim to real life. In the sim, you basically don't lose video. You don't fail safe. In real life, you start to lose video. You have to know how to sort of fly back to yourself, how to get that video back, and really how to take care of things. So just feel that stuff out slowly, but you have the foundation of being able to control the drone, and that's good. And then just, start to get a feel for how the real drone flies a little different than the sim, which it always will. And, have a good time and try not to crash too much, but don't be too afraid of crashing either. That's what I would say. Scott Stevens. Tiny Whoop prop comes in clockwise and counterclockwise. Is a clockwise just a counterclockwise upside down? No, it isn't. And in fact, if you look at the geometry, a clockwise is still a clockwise when you flip it upside down. It's just a really inefficient clockwise. So you can't turn a clockwise into a counterclockwise by any sort of transformation of its geometry. They are mirror images of each other. Okay? The other thing to keep in mind is that props are, to a greater or lesser degree, airfoils. And that's why there's a top and a bottom and a curve to it. And when you flip it upside down, it actually performs much worse because the airfoil's facing the wrong way. So no is the answer to your question. Clockwise and counterclockwise are not interchangeable, and flipping upside down will screw you up. Bailey Case wants to know, is there a reason to still run capacitors on digital quads? I'm running a SpeedyBee F405 mini stack in a 3-inch frame, and putting a cap would be tight on room. What risk am I running here? Yes, absolutely. You should still run caps on digital quads. On analog quads, the lack of a capacitor means you have visible electrical noise in your video feed. On a digital quad, the electrical noise is not as directly visible, but it still does have an effect. What you'll see is potentially reduced frame rate or reduced range when there's electrical noise. However, you are correct that digital quads and digital video transmitters are better at filtering out that noise, and a lot of people feel that they tolerate the lack of a capacitor better. You should also keep in mind, though, that the capacitor is filtering the noise from the motors and the ESC, and that, of course, and the gyro, and that, of course, has an effect. Okay, so you still want a capacitor on there. It's going to give you cleaner gyro. It's potentially going to give you better video. If you're running 4S, you might get away with not putting one on. I would always put it on the XT60. That's worse, but it's still better than nothing. Especially if you use that extra space to do a bigger capacitor. You could put the capacitor on some 18 or 20 gauge wire and put it somewhere else in the frame. And again, it's not as good as having it directly connected, but it's still better than nothing. So I would try to find a way to do it. Let's see. Okay, let's do the super chats. And of course, we'll have to start with this super chat from Yosferos. See Discord for images. Tullamere by Z Polymers. When do we see JB flying the best 3D printed drone? I assume you're talking about this one. The best 3D printed drone. Wait,
nope,
no, is that even 3D? I know. Nope. Is that even 3D printed? No, it's styrofoam. Nevertheless, kudos to a long-term friend of the channel and builder of weird drones, Black Jungle, for what's the smallest, cutest little wing I've ever gosh dang seen. Finally, a weird build he did that I don't find reprehensible. No, we're looking for... What are we looking for? How far back do I have to go, Blunty?
If you go to the bottom, I reposted.
Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate it. 3D printed drones, so hot right now. You're not wrong. Everybody seems to be making 3D printed drones. I mean, What is it made of? Some exotic filament? Why is this different from any other 3D printed drone I've ever rejected?
He's been trying. US Rose has been trying. He's tried a lot of filaments. He has a list of filaments he's gone through, and this is his first. I think his first like one that seems to.
What filament is it?
Work fairly well. Polymer by Z Polymers.
Oh, never heard of it. Polymer filament. Replacement for aluminum, steel, magnesium. Oh, shit. Coefficient of thermal expansion can be tailored. I'm not too worried about that. Superior dimensional stability. Have to feel it to believe it. Okay, I mean, replacement for aluminum.
I will say, I believe from the discussions they were having, this costs more than carbon fiber, but I could be wrong.
I mean, you could make an argument that that's worth it if you can custom design and custom print.
Yeah.
You could also make an argument that you could set up a CNC mill and just start cutting carbon. But if you've already got a 3D printer, maybe you're not interested in CNC. How much is it? 500 grams for $275. Oh my God. Jeez. $275. How much is aluminum per kilogram? Aluminum sheet. Price per kilogram. $2,000 per kilogram is what I'm reading. Yeah, price per kg. $2,000 per kilogram. This stuff is approximately half the price of aluminum. So, fair enough. It's a hell of a price for 3D printed filament. My God. I mean, it's not even fair to compare it per kilogram, to be honest. I mean, it's probably not fair to compare it to aluminum per kilogram. Like, I can get a sheet of carbon fiber, 5mm thickness, you know, for $20. I don't know how many frames that prints. I guess it's hard to do this math without knowing, you know, how many kilograms of filament are in the frame and how many frames you could cut out of the carbon fiber. It said price per kilogram, friend. It clearly said price per kilogram. If you buy 1 to 9 tons, it's $2,000 per kilogram. These are volume pricing. That's all you're seeing here. The price is clearly labeled as per kilogram. If you can get 9 tons of aluminum for $2,000, more power to you. I don't think that's, yeah. I don't think it's $2,000 per ton. It clearly says price per kilogram. Clearly says right here, price per kilogram. I don't think I'm misreading that. Yeah, no. Am I misreading that? Chat? Blunty? Someone in the chat is arguing that this is a per ton price. I don't think that's right. The world may never know. No. $289 per kilogram. Well, that's a significantly lower price than $2,000 per kilogram. Well, I kind of want to know. That's scrap price. Oh, raw aluminum. Price of aluminum sheet. Well, 6621 aluminum sheet. No, I just want to know. Now I'm just curious. Well, I need the kilogram price. Ah, fuck me. Yeah, no. Anyway, I feel like that's the right way to read this. Aluminum plate price per kilogram seems pretty clear. That's $2,000 per kilogram. That doesn't seem... I don't know. How much is a kilogram of aluminum? Anyway, let's just get to something we absolutely can agree on, which is that this is an incredibly expensive filament. You know, you typically pay $30-50 for, you know, a kilogram of filament, depending on what it is. This is pretty expensive. So, boy, print samples out of something cheap before you commit. Right? Stronger than steel. How about, bamboo material profiles. Cool. That's great. Printed in a bamboo printer. That's nice. Here's our parameters. No. Where's the... Yeah, here we go. Properties. Strength. 237 megapascals. Wow. I mean, that's something. That's something. So, it still remains to be seen how it performs. So, first of all, thank you for telling me about this 3D printing filament. I probably won't be buying it, but it is fascinating. God forbid you have a failed print. You're going to really cry. It still remains to be seen how it performs compared to carbon fiber, which is the gold standard for this type of frame. And I think it remains to be seen whether duplicating a carbon fiber sheet design with 3D printing is the right decision. If this stuff is as strong or stronger than aluminum, right, but it can be FDM printed, shouldn't we form it into shapes that give structural benefit? Or is it better to just print it like this and have the sort of ease of maintenance that we get with a sheet frame? I mean, certainly this is going to be an easy print with very little waste, and that's got a lot going for it. Yeah. Anyway, would love to see how this performs. I don't know if I'm going to spend $275 on a roll of filament to see, though. Never know. Currently, for me, the gold standard for filament is PAHT carbon fiber. Whenever I have something that I need to be sort of... Well, there are certain things I print out of TPU because it's durable and flexible. But for rigid stuff, if price is no object and performance is desired, PAHT carbon fiber is what I go to. And it works pretty well. All right. Well, thank you, Yosfros, for that. Let's continue with the super chats. Thank you for a $10 super chat from Edwin Ramirez, who says, I'm having issues with GPS lock. When I throttle up, I lose all the GPS sats, and when I throttle down, I regain a few sats. What could it be? You're getting electrical noise from your motors and your ESC, and it's getting into the GPS leads. Most likely, the wires going from the GPS to the flight controller are what's picking up that interference. What I would recommend you do is you can get aluminum foil, but actually it's not what I prefer to use. I like to use the foil tape that is found in the HVAC section of your local hardware store because it's self-adhesive. And I would just cut a little bit of that and just do a wrap around the GPS wires. Also, if you can, twist the GPS wires, but wrapping it in that foil, in every case that I've found, roughly doubles the number of satellites that I lock. It has a big, clear, and consistent difference. I do it on all my GPS builds now. If you don't want to go buy that tape, use some aluminum foil. Just cut yourself a little length of aluminum foil, fold it over, kind of crumple it on. I would recommend covering it in heat shrink or tape to keep it from short-circuiting anything and to hold it on there. But that's what I would suggest you do, and usually that will fix whatever is going on. Matt Light, thank you for a $5 super chat. Matt asks, I'm currently running the RP1 Express LRS receiver. Will a true diversity receiver with dual antennas give me more range? Or will what I'm running be enough? The first question I'd ask, Matt, is are you running out of range? Are you seeing low LQ or failsafe? If not, then just be happy with what you got. Enjoy your life. If you are seeing low LQ or even failsafing, it's possible a diversity receiver will give more range. Like, for example, if you're in a situation where your antenna is on the back of the drone, So you fly away from yourself and the antenna has clear line of sight. But as soon as you turn around to come home, now the antenna is shadowed by the body of the drone and you lose link. That's the kind of situation where a diversity antenna will really help you. If you're in a situation where there's a lot of multipath bouncing, having one antenna be horizontal and one antenna be vertical can help you catch a stronger bounce sometimes. But if you're in a situation where the antenna is not particularly shadowed and there isn't a lot of multipath bouncing, then adding diversity will really never make things worse, but it may not make things better. So that's how I would answer that question. Mobile 8, way better than Firefly. I mean, you know, everybody's got their own opinion. I personally like the open prop design for outdoor flying. Mobile 8's good too. Hi JB, how can I import OSD elements to my video in Premiere? I'm using O3 and Goggles 2. Gigantical, I believe the only way to do this is to record those OSD elements in the DVR at the time that you record the DVR. So in the goggles, there's an option for record, what I can't remember what even it's called. Record goggle screen view or something. There's an option in the recording settings in the goggles that causes it to either record a clean video or record the entire screen with all of the OSD elements. If you're trying to get the OSD elements onto the O3 recording, I don't know a simple way to do that, except to like put them all at the top and bottom of the screen and kind of cut them off and kind of just lay them on there. Like, with a little bit of work, I've done a color key. Since the OSD elements are white, I've done a key or a Luma key. I guess a color key. I don't know which would work better. I've done a key where I basically key out everything but the OSD. It's not perfect though, because when a white thing appears on screen, then it gets through the key. But if you combine a mask at the top of the screen and the bottom of the screen, or if you put your OSD elements off the side of the screen and you do a mask and then you do like a color key or a Luma key to select the white stuff, you can get a kind of a decent overlay that you can put on your O3 video. Maddie Cowpatty, thank you for a $20 super chat. Maddie asks, I've replaced my O3 unit in my GEPRC 35V2, and it says there's no radio connection. Do I have to reconfigure the O3 to recognize ELRS? I've replaced a few motors, but other than that, I know less than nothing. Yeah, Maddie, there's some confusion going on here, unfortunately. The O3 doesn't talk to the ExpressLRS receiver or the ExpressLRS controller at all. The O3, they are separate worlds and never really interact with each other whatsoever. So you replace
the S-bus wire.
Yes. Fair. But if you think you replaced the wire harness, maybe that's true. So some flight controllers, so the O3 has the ability to bind to the DJI RC controller, and if it does, then it will send a receiver signal to the flight controller. And some flight controllers will put the O3's receiver signal on the same UART as your ExpressLRS receiver. And in that case, when you put the O3 on the flight controller, it makes your receiver not work anymore because the flight controller is getting two signals on the same UART and they conflict. What might have happened is that GEPRC shipped the original O3 air unit and they removed that receiver wire from the harness going from the O3 to the flight controller. And then when you got your new O3, you put your new wiring harness in and you replaced it. And now, so what you would need to do is remove the yellow S-bus wire from the harness going between the O3 and the flight controller, and that might fix your situation. Hayland Drone, thank you for 59 Norwegian kroner. Continuing our super chat roundup. Took stack from a 5-inch to a 3.5-inch. The LQ RSSI and ESC temp is not working in the OSD. It worked before. Why is it not working? I mean, LQ and RSSI come straight from the receiver. ESC temp, I mean, it was all working before. I have no idea why it would have stopped working when you moved it. It sounds like you broke something when you moved it. I don't think there's any way I can even start to answer this question, to be honest with you. Does the receiver work? Did you flash the flight controller and you're just not telling me? Something is missing here. Some piece of information is missing here, and I'm not 100% sure what it is. So we could guess, but I don't know if that's the best use of the stream's time. Like, if all you did was take it out of one frame, put it in another frame, then everything should work just like it did, obviously. So something else happened, and I don't know what it is. We should just guess. Can you recommend a video transmitter for the Axis Flying dual camera model thermal imaging? Oh, Axis Flying. What we got here? Oh, nice 3D printed case. Very professional. So we got one. You know, the thing with all these thermal cameras is, I want to see the field of view. What's the field of view on the thermal camera? They're all super zoomed in and not really very usable for flying. I guess that's why it's a dual model.
Is this the P&P one or no?
What do you mean P&P?
Or is that the Flyboy? There's one that like you can buy and it has a picture-in-picture automatically. Like you can enable a picture-in-picture. So
yeah, no, it's not this one, I don't think. I could be wrong. I don't think that's this one. So...
Oh yeah, there's a camera switcher. I see.
Yeah, but I'm annoyed because the camera switcher is built into the flight controller. If you're going to do a dual camera model, why wouldn't you have the camera switcher built into the camera? That way you could use it with any flight controller that doesn't have a camera switcher.
I was going to say, well, okay, but would you control it with a UART or a wire?
No, you control it with a pin IO.
Okay.
Right? You control it with a pin IO, just like you're controlling the camera switcher on the flight controller. You would have a spare UART or a spare motor output. You would resource map it. You pin IO, or if you're doing iNav, you just use a PWM input. You have the ability to control it with a PWM input, and you just map it as a servo. Easy peasy. So right now, this will only really work with flight controllers that have a camera switcher, which is fine, because if you're buying a thermal camera, you could buy a flight controller. But it would be cooler if they had built the switcher into the camera, so it could be used with any flight controller. But anyway, that's beside the point. Servo map to motor 5. Oh, they did do that! Okay. I see. So if you have a flight controller that has a camera switcher, you just take the two camera outs and you switch it on the flight controller. Oh my God, shut up. You guys couldn't... Look, they have separate ground and 5 volts for the two cameras. You guys couldn't put a frickin' little Y cable in there? Lame. But if you don't have a camera switcher, you can feed it a PWM signal. Okay, points to you. Points to you for that one. Very cool. That's very cool. FPV camera, blah, blah, blah. See, look at the field of view. 18-degree horizontal field of view, 13-degree vertical field of view. It's like so zoomed in. It's really not flyable. I've tried to fly off of one of these before. It's basically impossible. It's so zoomed in. What you have to do, see here with the 640, we have a 48-degree by 38-degree. That's almost flyable, but still not that flyable. But so what you'll do is you'll fly using the optical camera, and then you'll go to the thermal camera, and you'll like auto level or something, and you'll just like look around. You know, this is not a typical FPV camera. So what VTX should you use? Any analog VTX. You name it. Any analog VTX whatsoever. Foxeer Reaper, good choice. Rush Tank Solo, good choice. TBS Unified DP, good choice. Any analog VTX. AKK has a 5 watt or a 10 watt VTX. And something tells me if you're flying a thermal camera, you probably also want an ultra high power VTX. Oh, I wonder why. So, there you go. What are your initial thoughts on the new iFlight Specter 7, specifically the front-hanging GoPro mount design? Thank you for a $10 super chat, Chris Stella. Specter 7.
It stinks.
I haven't even looked at it yet. I just know that's what I'm going to say. No, I've seen this before. I really don't like these truss-based frames. I really don't like them. They're a gigantic pain in the ass to assemble and to maintain. They have so many parts. And maybe iFlight has solved this on this one. They're smart cookies. But my first impression is that if I have to take the top off this and then the arms kind of go blah and fall apart, if I have to replace a motor, if any of these pieces break and I have to replace them, it's such a freaking puzzle getting it to all hold together. It's so many screws, so many pieces, drives me crazy, makes me want to keep myself safe. KYS. Keep yourself safe. And so, like, immediately I'm annoyed at this first time. And it was the same for the AOS 7 that Chris Rosser made. It would be interesting if I could see one of these kind of pulled apart, and maybe they've done something super clever to address that complaint. I don't know. Like, there are advantages to this kind of truss-mounted design. Like, the arms are stiffer a lot of times and they're lighter for the stiffness. Like, there's a reason people do this. But, like, my first thought is, why am I flying the Specter and not like a Chimera? Premium components and an innovative design. Unique shell quick release system, easy quick release opening of the shell, great. CNC aluminum parts. Design simplifies the complex structure, allowing for easy assembly. Oh, they got CNC aluminum parts that address some of my complaints. Well, that's nice. Unparalleled strength to weight ratio while maintaining exceptional torsional resistance. Yeah. Underslung GoPro mounting. So you specifically asked about the underslung GoPro. Obviously, if we tank this thing into the ground, the GoPro is going to eat it, right? Whereas if the GoPro is mounted on top, it's still going to like potentially take damage, but be less likely to completely eat it. I mean, it gets the props out of view, sure. Maybe with a shorter wheelbase. I loathe this style of GoPro mounting because anytime you like touch anything, the GoPro angle changes. I mean, it seems to me like even landing would cause the GoPro angle to change. So you'd have to come up with some way of landing without letting that happen. It's clever. Like, I'm curious what solution this is, what problem this is a solution to. Like, are people flying 7 inches and they're like, well, I need it to be lighter. I guess lighter is good, right? I feel like the person who this is going to be good for is a person who really cares about that lightweight. I mean, for every gram of frame you take away, that's another gram of battery you can add and get more flight time or just better performance. What does it weigh? Let's see all up weight. Hello. No, you can tell me what the weight is. No. The word weight appears one time where they say that it has better strength to weight ratio, but it doesn't actually say what the weight of the aircraft is. Considering the weight is one of the selling points, it seems like you would put that on your product page. Maybe not. I mean, I searched for the word weight. I'm not sure what I'm looking for. Specter 703. What's the weight? Specter 703. All right. Anybody know what it weighs? Okay, I shouldn't have done that. I'm just messing around. I'm sorry. I should have backed out at the last minute. I was just messing around. I sincerely apologize. No review. Oh. No reviews of this. I guess I should do a review of it. I don't know. I want to know what it weighs. That single report will have no consequences for him. Please don't freak out. They'll have no consequences. It's just I just was joking for the live stream. Yeah, so I'd want to. I don't know. I want to know the weight. The GoPro mounting, I'm not mad about it because it's clearly designed to give a smaller wheelbase with no props in view. But does it? Because you're going to have it up tilted. I don't know. Maybe it does. Why is it? Hang on. What am I missing? Would it not have less props in view if it was mounted up here and looking upward versus if it's looking down here and looking upward? I guess it lets you push it forward slightly, whereas up here it's got to be pushed back slightly. I don't know. I'm not sure I understand it. I'll say that. And then we'll let that go at there. Plenty, I swear I saw more super chats come in, but I don't see any in the queue. Did I misunderstand? Here we go. Samuel Coe says, takeoff weight with an 8,000 milliamp hour battery, 1619 kg, 1619 grams. Okay. So I'm curious on how that compares to that Chimera 7 Pro. Since someone gave me the information, I'm going to take 2 more minutes and look. See, they published the damn weight of the Chimera Pro. So the Chimera Pro with an 8,000 milliamp hour battery is 1619 kg. The Specter with an 8,000, oh no, Samuel Coe, that's the exact weight of the Chimera Pro. Don't tell me that the Specter is the exact weight of the Chimera Pro. I think you got something backwards. All right. 770 grams with a 6S 1800. Oh, no, that's not what I was looking for. All right. Well, if anybody can figure out how much the Spectre actually damn weighs, that'll go a long way towards convincing me whether it's, like, worth it or not. Anyway. Moving on. CF Kinetic, thank you for a $10 super chat. I tried to switch my O3 MIPI to a longer one and ended up killing 2 O3s. I checked all the pins on the connections, nothing bent or out of place. Help, please. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The only possibility is that you plugged the MIPI cable in wrong, right? Or your MIPI cable is broken. How would that kill the O3? I'm not even sure how that would kill the O3, to be honest with you.
If this is the same person who messaged me, I think he messaged me again at some point and said that, like, he tested Vistas and they also wouldn't work with his goggles, so maybe you need to refresh your goggles firmware. Somehow you've messed it up because, yeah, I'm not sure.
You think the O3 is not dead?
Well, I mean, what's the chances? I don't know. It seems crazy, right?
DJI hardware is surprisingly resilient to stupidity. So, like, I would be surprised if, number one, it would take some talent to plug a MIPI cable in wrong, right? They kind of don't want to plug in unless you...
You would have to bend a pin, right? I mean, that's the only way I could think. Somehow you accidentally touched something or did something to bend a pin. You jammed it on a little too hard at the first bit, and then that shorted into something and burned. And maybe you burned 2 things by plugging 2... I don't know. But then...
So I would definitely get a new MIPI cable, right?
Yeah. Again, if this is the same person, though, then I would... And he says he's checked all the pins. Again, if it's the same person, he said he checked all the pins are great, but he tried Vistas and they didn't work. So to me, that means that goggles have to be the problem, even though that's different modes. If you can't get Vistas and O3s to work on a set of goggles, something's got to be wrong. So refresh the firmware. Yeah, I think he said he rooted. Again, if it's the same person, I think he said he rooted. So you're going to want to go through and redo the butter. Butter? Redo the butter. And then update to 101. Right?
Yeah.
Or does butter update you? I can't remember.
Butter updates you. I don't know if there's a butter for. I know there's a butter for 0608. I don't know if there's a. I think there's a butter for 10 whatever, but I would just butter it to 0608, then upgrade it to whatever firmware you want it to be on. Which, if you're using the 03, it would be the latest. Then install WTFOS. But yeah. I'm curious how he knows the O3s are dead. Like maybe the O3s aren't dead. Something
I think
else
it said he can't get video at all, but they're giving.
But do they power up? What does the LED do?
They power up, and I believe he's getting a calibration error on screen when he puts the wrong camera on. But there's no video coming through.
Vistas are all working now, just not the O3. He says.
Okay, it changed.
Does the O3 power up? Does the LED turn on normally?
My memory
no
is
image
everything
at all.
looks. Yeah, everything looks normal, but he doesn't get an image. And then if he puts the wrong camera on, like the camera that wasn't originally with that air unit, it says calibration error.
Yeah, that always happens when you change.
But at least that means it's seeing the camera, but we're not getting the video.
Yeah,
so
so the O3,
Somehow
the O3 isn't.
camera.
But crucially, the O3 isn't dead. Just your MIPI cable is messed up and your camera isn't working.
Well, the problem is
fine.
he's got 3 MIPI cables, so they all have to be dead because he had one on each O3 and a longer one he's using. So that means somehow 3 MIPI cables are not working with 2 cameras and 2 O3s, and I'm lost. I've been trying to help him. I have no fucking idea what's going on.
Okay, well, I think we have to conclude it's a user mistake.
Right. But he's gone through all the hardware. Yeah, I have no idea what's going on. I'm so confused.
So what I would do if I was there is I would start by buying a new MIPI cable, and then I would personally inspect. Maybe I would even get a new camera. I don't know. I would personally inspect your stuff, and I would personally plug it in to see like what is going wrong. And theoretically, it would like work for me, but I wouldn't know why, and I wouldn't know what exactly you did wrong, like misaligning the MIPI or something. I don't know, man. You can't root the O3 either, so the rooting is not related. People in the chat, Nick Hayes is wondering if rooting is involved. The O3 isn't. You don't root the O3. The O3 is the issue. Obviously, so good news is I don't think anything is broken. Maybe your cable's broken, but I think your hardware is probably fine. I just don't know what's gone wrong, though. Without physical access to the air unit and the cable and the cameras, I don't know how we would fix this. So, there you go. I appreciate the super chat, and I'm sorry we can't give you a better answer. But I think that's where we're going to have to leave it. Matty Cowpatty, thanks for a $20 super chat. Thank you for the help on the O3 ELRS thing, but I got another one for you. I rooted my goggles V2, but now I'm locked out of the camera settings in the O3. Locked out of the camera settings on the O3. There's no way that rooting the V2 goggles can affect the performance when you're dealing with an O3. Okay? The way that the goggles work is there are separate sort of operating system partitions depending on whether you're in the digital FPV system mode that works with the Vistas. And that's the one that gets rooted. And the whatever mode works with the O3s, okay? That's why with the V2, when you switch modes, you reboot the goggles. It's literally like you have a multi-OS PC. You're running Linux, and you're running Windows, and you're running macOS on the same hardware. Excuse me. And you reboot, and now you're in Windows, okay? Except the difference is that, theoretically, if you have a multi-boot PC, all the operating systems can touch each other's hard drive, theoretically, so one could screw the other up. With the DJI V2 goggles, when you root them, you're rooting the Vista partition. That has no effect whatsoever on the O3 partition. I can't even imagine a mechanism whereby routing your V2 goggles would affect the performance of the O3 in any way. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Weird things can happen, but my first assumption is that there's some other reason you can't get to that menu, but I don't know what it is. Jacob Rosenfeld says, you're out of memory on your internal storage on the O3. I guarantee that's a problem. I had a similar issue and then figured it out. So what you're saying, Jacob, and thank you for throwing that in, O3 won't let you change camera settings when the internal storage is full. I have never experienced that, but I don't change the camera settings that often. And honestly, I don't fill the internal storage that often because I usually offload it. So Jacob Rosenfeld, morally, Jacob gets this $20 super chat. Practically speaking, it's kind of like, you know, when you give the priest money and the priest transubstantiates that money to God, but really the priest keeps the money and spends it on the church. That's how this is going to work. Spiritually, that $20 is yours, Jacob, but practically I'm going to decide how it gets spent. So, does that make me a 501c3? Am I tax exempt now because I'm a religion? Thank you, Jacob. El Mura, thank you for a $5 super chat. Any reasons for a 1750 kV on 6S to burn out of nowhere, be replaced and burn again? No issues for months before that. My first thought would be that there's something broken about your ESC, and it's going to keep burning every motor that it touches. Now, usually, if you have a damaged ESC, you'll have something like an open FET, and the minute you plug the battery in, the motor smokes. Okay. Now, that's not what's happening here. So it's a little bit suspicious. It's a little bit inconsistent with that conclusion. But the fact that it was the same motor, like the back left motor, strongly points to the ESC. Because it's unlikely that, like, the flight controller could, like, target a motor. When the flight controller has a problem, like with the PIDs and the filters, all the motors tend to get hot. Maybe the back motors get a little more hot, but generally all of them will get hot. So if you're smoking the same motor again and again, it points to the ESC, in my opinion. Theoretically, it could be the motor screws. The motor screws could be too long, touching the windings and burning the motor. But it sounds like it was flying fine for a while and then suddenly started frying motors. And so to me, I think the ESC is probably the issue. And I suspect that what I would do in your situation is replace the ESC. Vladimir Zorin, thank you for your donation. I currently use the Volador 3.5 frame with an analog camera. I have the DJI Goggles 3. Should I wait for the release of the O4 Air unit or upgrade to the O3 Air unit now? Vladimir, if you wait for the release of the O4 Air unit, no one could say how long that release will take. Many people are guessing that the O3 and the O4 are imminent because there have been leaks. There have even been some photos people are sharing on Facebook. No one actually knows except DJI and anyone who's signed an NDA when the actual release date will be. So the first question you would ask yourself is, am I willing to wait? And you could guess that probably, like, you won't be waiting like a long time, but you could also guess that you might be waiting longer than you would prefer. But assuming you're willing to wait, the leaks have suggested, and I think we also, Blunty, do we have FCC certification now for the new O4s?
Yes. Yes.
And is it thereby, like, absolutely confirmed the rumors about there being, like, a light version and a full-size version?
I'm not sure that the FCC shows, I think it shows the pictures of some of the labels, but I'm not sure which one. I don't think it's labels of both. But I mean, we have almost, I would say we have basically 100% confirmation there's two, because we've seen like dimensions of both, as far as I know.
So we could say that there are rumors that there's a version, a light version, that takes from 1S to 3S power, and it sounds like that might be just about damn perfect for your little 3.5-inch build. So I think a lot of people would think it was worth it to wait. But if that's like your only quadcopter right now and you really want to fly it, here's what you do. You buy the O3 today, you get flying, and if some point in the future they release the O4 and you're like, oh, that's what I should have gotten, great. Just buy the O4. Now you got a spare O3 and you put it in some other build because you have infinite money. Go ahead, Plenty.
The light should have 25 by 25 and 30 by 30 mounting, and 33.5 by 33.5 is the dimensions.
Okay. All right.
Just so you get an idea what it can fit in.
All right. Well, that's my advice. Like, I would say probably wait, because it really feels like that's coming. But if you can't wait, just buy the O3. When the O4 releases, just take the O3 out, put the O4 in, and build another quad with the O3. Build a 5-inch with the O3. Hey, sell the O3. What do you care? All right. Okay, we are now caught up on the Super Chats. Yay, us. Now we're going to answer some more questions. June Loco wants to know the release date on the O4. Like I said, nobody knows the release date on the O4 except DJI and anybody who is under NDA. So, there you go. No one knows. Yeah. Dave S. suggests that the O4 cam might not fit. Blunty, what are the rumors saying about the dimensions of the O4 camera compared to the O3? Do we know anything? Well, are there any rumors about that?
Yes. I think Dahari. Yeah. Oh, that's right. It's split. Hold on. I can't. Let me see if I can find that image. But it's like way. You know how normally the screws are closer together on FPV cameras? They're like, they put them really high and low on the camera, so they're like really far up and really far down.
Oh my God! For real? So standard mounting isn't going to work? Is there a middle screw, so you can at least do one?
There's a top and bottom screw. That's the little picture I saw.
Can you post a picture in the Discord, or do we have a leaked picture?
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. There we go. That's Black Jungle just posted it.
Thank you, Black Jungle. So this again is a leaked picture. Jesus, DJI. What are you doing, DJI? Why? Hey, you know how we've got all these frames that work with the existing cameras? Yeah. Fuck you. Now we got a new camera with completely different mounting that isn't going to work. So basically, you can't put this camera in your Volador easily anyway. F you. Will the Volador, have spare side plates? Sure. I guess. That's annoying as shit. That's annoying as shit. That's just annoying as shit. Right? Am I trying to look at the Volador and see. Has it got the 3D printed? Oh. So if you're lucky, you'll be able to just do a custom 3D print. But if you're unlucky, those screws are so far apart that you literally can't fit it on here without custom metal pieces. It doesn't look like there's a lot of breathing room there. You know, DJI just manages to be so annoying sometimes.
If you check, I don't know. I haven't seen that image before. It looks legit, but...
I mean, we don't know if that image is legit.
Well, that one I think is, but if you scroll up in the chat, Unreality posted a black and white drawing image of the two different cameras, and the light would have a different camera, apparently. I'm not sure.
Oh, maybe there's hope for the light?
He said he saw it on Mad, so that's probably at least has a high chance.
Madstech is definitely not under NDA from DJI and is often a pretty reliable source of rumors. Where the hell is it? Can you repost it for me? I don't know where it is.
Click you scroll right up in the Discord. It's like 3 pictures up.
Oh. Interesting. Well, I don't even know how that camera's going to mount. I don't even know what's up with that camera.
Yeah, I mean, you can't be looking at it from the same angle, right? Because the O4 Air Unit Pro is facing forward, but that looks like it's facing at us.
Yeah. So we don't know what the mounting is, but it's different.
Yeah.
So we don't know. We don't know is the answer. Even if these rumors are true, we still don't know a lot. So maybe leaning me more towards buy the O3 today, right? Maybe so.
I think it's hard to say. If it's going to be a month or two, though, which we would assume from FCC, but we don't really know, then I don't know.
Yeah.
Seems like it might be. It's hard to tell. We always have this debate, right? Is it worth waiting? And most of the time, it's not worth waiting.
Yeah, but if you're going to wait, and then the day you buy the O4, you're not going to be able to mount it in your frame anyway, that's going to like make me wish I'd bought the O3 however long ago. I don't know. I'm just annoyed to discover the mounting has changed. So now I'm like, no. Anyway. All right, let's move on. Here's a question from the Discord. My Avatar GT Walksnail VTX needs minimum 11 volts. Only one flight controller with 12 volt BEC I could find was the DYS F722. Came in the mail today. First impression's not too good. On Betaflight, it detects itself as a Mamba F722. Is it legit? I'm going to guess that DYS just reused the Mamba target. That's a common thing. It's not that common, but it is not uncommon for that to be done. So I would assume it's a legitimate DYS. The DYS is kind of a bargain basement manufacturer, and so they just like copy the target. Is it legit? Define legit. I think it's a DYS flight controller. What other flight controller could you recommend with a 12 volt BEC? There sure aren't any. I'm going to guess that you've done as much searching as I would do here on the live stream, and you probably found them if they exist. Big Data Pimp says the Hobby Wing has a 12 volt pad. Which Hobby Wing? Hobby Wing F7? Does it have a 12 volt? Hobby Wing's a good flight controller. Oh yeah, 12 volt. Hell yeah. That's the one you should buy. That's a good one. Hobby Wing's a good flight controller. And it's got a 12 volt regulator, so good for you. And the ESC is really good too. All right, well, awesome. Great suggestion. Saved my butt. Big Data Pimp. Again, spiritually, that's your super chat. Oh, that wasn't a super chat. Great. Also, you could just buy a 12 volt regulator. I mean, it is an option. Black Jungle wants to know, if I'm making a repeater, since the receiver and transmitter are so close together, should I be more worried about frequency distance or harmonics? Should I just go race 1 and race 8 and call it a day? Black Jungle, I don't really know a good answer for you on that. I definitely would have as much frequency separation as possible. I don't think that's going to, I don't think race 1 and race 8 are close enough together that harmonics are an issue, right? Because harmonics start at double the frequency, right? So harmonics start at double the frequency, and the double of race 1 is not race 8. So I don't think harmonics come into play at all, unless you know something I don't know about, like a nuance of harmonics. So I would want the transmit and the receive antenna as far apart as possible. And when people build repeaters, that's what they usually do. In addition, you would benefit from having a directional antenna on the transmitter. So the repeater might have an omnidirectional receive antenna and a directional, like 180 degree or even narrower gain transmit antenna pointing back at the pilot is a way you could do that. And that reduces the interference between the transmitter and the receiver. Here's one from Moonbeam, just taking a few from the Discord. Have you tried position hold with Betaflight 4.6? No, I have not. What type of use case would this support for a typical fixed camera setup on a freestyle drone? Position hold? Like, I fail-safed and I don't want to drop out of the air. That's a good one. Maybe you don't want to return to home when you fail-safe. Maybe you want to loiter in position. In Betaflight position hold, if you push the stick, it goes into angle mode and you can sort of fly it around angle mode, but then when you release the stick, it goes to position hold. Again, pretty nice, huh? I'm banging it around in angle mode, but the minute I release the stick, it doesn't just crash, it just freezes. You could imagine some advantages there. The main advantage, if you had a gimbal, then position hold will let you freeze and move the gimbal around. And I think that's what you're thinking of. When you have a fixed camera, the advantage is less clear, but the ability to not crash when you let go of the controls sort of speaks for itself. Are Rush Tank Ultimate VTXs notorious for breaking? No, they're notorious for being extremely well made and durable. I have 3 of them and none of them work. They all stopped working mysteriously. There have been counterfeit Rush tanks sold on AliExpress in the past. Now, I don't know if you got those. But there was an announcement from Rush sometime back that there were counterfeit Rush Tank Ultimate VTXs being sold. Maybe you got the counterfeits. Where did you buy them? This question is too good. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Why is it not here? The question from Big Data Pimp about pause hold. Oh, there it is. You already flagged it. Haha. I thought you hadn't flagged it yet. Big Data Pimp says, I'm trying to get GPS Rescue working. It works on a Switch, but it just seems to pause hold in failsafe. Betaflight 4.5. So, first of all, Betaflight 4.5 doesn't have pause hold. So, like, you're having, like, something miraculous going on here. I'm really curious. I'm trying to come up with a hypothetical here, man. Like Betaflight 4.5 doesn't have pause hold, so either it thinks it's in stage 2 failsafe, and it's like trying to auto land, or it's in return to home and it's like confused about something. One thing that's different between a Switch. Here's what I would say. What about this, Big Data Pump? Instead of activating GPS Rescue with a Switch, activate Stage 2 Failsafe with a Switch and see if it does the same thing. There are sanity checks, and by default, the sanity checks only happen when in failsafe. Oh, but if you activate Stage 2 Failsafe with... No, that won't work. The sanity checks will still kick in. Could it be that a sanity check? But a sanity check failing will cause it to just disarm. Man. I don't know, man. Like, I'd want to see in the OSD, like, what does it think is happening? Like, the status? That's a weird one, dude. The Betaflight shouldn't be able to pause hold. So I'm not sure what it's actually doing. That's a weird one. Woof. This is a tough one. The question is whether there are C2 programming pins on the Air 65 flight controller, the G4. This is the G4. Is this it? Is this the flight controller in question? Air 65 G4 4-in-1 AIO. Let's look at the, let's just confirm what flight controller is in here. Make sure we're looking at the right one. Air brushless flight controller 4-in-1. Okay, that's the one. I fear that they didn't break out the C2 programming pads because it's so freaking small. But we're going to look. Okay. Okay, if I had to guess, I would guess that these two pads right here are your C2 programming pads. Likewise here, likewise here. Do you see that each of the MCUs, these 4 chips here, are the MCU for the ESC? And do you see that each of them have 2 little pads next to them? I'm going to guess that those are the C2 programming pads. So I would try to do a C2 flash using those little pads and cross my fingers that it works. That's what I would do. I would feel fairly confident that those are your C2 programming pads. But not like 100% confident. I bought a Hoda D6. The balance plug is for 6S. I mistakenly thought it would be able to plug in the 4S balance leads. Yes, you can. You just plug them in, right? I saw you talking about this plenty.
We solved that in chat. He made his own battery, and he was confused about the direction of how it should work, but we got it tested and made sure it was correct.
Oh, great. Fantastic. Good man. Black Jungle, was I looking at the wrong flight controller? You've posted a pic of a different flight controller. Ulysses asks, does GPS work all over the world? Yes. It works no matter where you are. I changed a region and I changed flight controller, and now I don't get any GPS. It's not a region problem. GPS works all around the world. Doesn't matter. That's like kind of the point, isn't it?
When you go to a new region, it just takes longer to boot up, right? Because it looks for satellites that it can't see them, so it starts searching for what it can find that's not saved, right? And then it rebuilds the database.
It takes it might take 10 minutes to, download the almanac, but it will work everywhere. I once was a doofus. You know how you have the option to choose GPS satellites or GLONASS satellites or Beidou satellites, right? And I thought, well, I won't turn on the Beidou satellites because those are for China. Which is dumb. Because those satellites are all over the world. The Chinese Beidou Global Positioning Network works everywhere in the world, just like all the other ones. So I kicked myself for being... my point being, I've made this exact same mistake once. What are the digital options that also allow you to use an analog ground station? Well, DJI is right out, basically. The V2 goggles could take an AV input, but they're pretty obsolete. They're not like obsolete, but I probably wouldn't tell you to buy them at this point because there's so many generations behind. If you have them, keep using them. HD0 has the ability to take an AV input. That's probably the best one. The Walksnail Goggles X also have the ability to take an AV input, although they are not as sort of robust an analog goggle as the HD0 goggles. So I would say the Walksnail Goggles X or the HD0 goggles are the two choices you would look at. Wolfstorm says, I mainly fly Tiny Whoops, and I was wondering, what is the best way to dispose of batteries? I'm using little 1S and 2S batteries. Honestly, man, I would just throw them in the trash. Those batteries are so tiny. Like, fully discharge them if you want to feel safe, and just chuck them in the trash. What about the lithium? I don't know. Take them to a battery recycling, like a batteries superstore or whatever. Like a battery, what's that store? Batteries Plus? Take them to a hardware store. The problem is if you take batteries to a hardware store to recycle them, which they usually have recycling bins near the entrance of the hardware store. They're like, place one battery per bag and drop it in, and it's like they're expecting you to have like a drill battery or some big battery. If you have a bunch of FPV batteries, it's kind of ridiculous. So you could do that if you want. You could recycle them if you want to feel good about yourself. But honestly, if you throw them out, it's not like a it's not like a lead acid battery where it's got lead in it and like potentially the lead will get into the water system and like poison the fishes or something. The lithium batteries are, as far as I've heard, stable and are okay to dispose of in the regular trash. If you but shouldn't you recycle them? Okay, go for it if you want to. Like, at some point, the lithium will be valuable enough that someone will be mining the landfills to get the lithium back out of the batteries. Does anyone recapture lithium from batteries currently? Does that actually happen? Or is it still valuable? Is it still cheap enough just to mine more lithium that no one's really doing that? Right? Does anyone know the answer? I don't know the answer. Ian Bible says, yes, they do. All right, well, fair. Here's a question from Dimitri Kasubo, who asks, I'm trying to make the SpeedyBee 1600 VTX work on high power. So far, Betaflight always shows 25 milliwatts in the OSD. Okay, Dimitri, here's what's weird about your question. Betaflight shows the output power that it is asking the transmitter to go to. Betaflight does not really know whether the transmitter has actually gone to that output power. Betaflight just says 25 milliwatts and just expects that the flight controller will do what it's told. Which is kind of weird because smart audio can be a bidirectional communication. I don't know exactly what it can communicate, but it is bidirectional. So like theoretically it could communicate this information, but as far as I can tell, it doesn't. So when you see 25 milliwatts in the OSD, that means that's what the flight controller thinks you want. Now you obviously think that you are telling the flight controller to go to a higher power, but I don't think you are. And that's kind of weird, and I don't know how to reconcile that. Like, are you going... Here, I got a flight controller plugged in right now. Are you going into the video transmitter tab? Like so? Hang on, wait for it. Wait for it. You going to the video transmitter tab? And are you changing the output power to a higher number? And then are you hitting save, right down in the lower right? If you do that, I don't see any way that in the OSD you wouldn't then see the higher power. And it's important that you know that the flight controller might not be at the higher power. The flight controller is saying, give me 600 milliwatts. And the VTX may be like, I can't do that for some reason. It's not important. But the flight controller OSD will show 600 milliwatts as what it's asking for. So it's a little bit of a weird situation. Okay. Does anybody know when the QAVS 5-inch kit is available to buy? Yeah, so I actually just researched this yesterday. It all sold out for Black Friday, as you might expect. It should be in stock by the end of the month, but no guarantee. Should have more in stock by the end of the month. Maybe like the beginning of next month. So roughly 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, I'd say. You should try and stay on it because it sells out pretty quick, especially around holiday season. Justin Mueller has a good suggestion. That's a good suggestion, Justin. Sometimes low-power disarm won't detect the first arming command, which means it stays at 25 milliwatts. Yeah, if you have low-power disarm, maybe you need to disarm and rearm again, and it'll kick back to full power, or just turn low-power disarm off. I'm scrolling back in this conversation about the FAA plenty. Did Rebel Quads like troll people by pretending to be the FAA?
No, they have a message on their site that says this website has been claimed by the FAA. And I keep getting messages about it.
Is Rebel Quads still even in business?
Rebel Mini Quads. No, I think they went out of business and put that message up to troll people.
Oh, that's hilarious. They always were kind of... I can't even...
Could be rebelminiquads.com.
No, I don't want live caption. No, close. Let's go. Fuck off. It says the store is unavailable due to maintenance. Should be available shortly. No, it won't.
Oh, it used to say it was claimed by the FAA.
Yeah, okay, that's cute. That's a cute way to go out of business. And then he's like, why would they do that? Because they always were trolls. They were trolls, but they're a respectable business. Welcome to the hobby. Black Jungle wants to know if that's a Hewing T1. Black Jungle, go look at my channel. I just released a build video for that plane today. You can tell you don't have notifications turned on, mister. Let's see here. Jakov wants to know, why would this turtle mode on Betaflight not work? So I'm going to assume that you have enabled turtle mode in the modes tab. If you see turtle mode in the modes tab, then that tells us that you have bidirectional D-shot turned on. Or, sorry, that tells us that you're using D-shot. Because if you're not using D-shot, you can't do turtle mode at all. So you're using D-shot. That's one of the prerequisites. The next question would be, when you flip the turtle mode switch, does the mode turn yellow in the modes tab? If so, then turtle mode is active. You will also see in the OSD, if you have fly mode enabled, it will say turtle. Okay? If you flip that switch and you don't see turtle in the fly, I mean, turn on the fly mode in your OSD if you don't have it turned on, which you should always have it turned on for this reason. If you don't see turtle there, or flip crash, what do they call it? I think it says flip crash, not turtle. If you don't see flip crash, then it's not activating. Okay.
Just to be clear, we should make sure he knows how to use turtle mode. So
fair.
Just so you know, you have a quad disarmed, throttle down, and instead of arming, you flip turtle mode, and then you arm, and your pitch and roll will then work to flip the quad. Just to be clear.
Right. So you don't arm and then flip turtle mode, for example. You flip turtle mode first, and it says flip crash, and then you arm, and it says armed flip crash. And then you use the right stick to flip the quad over. So either turtle mode is not activating because you've set up the aux mode wrong, or you're not flipping the switches in the right order, and then it's not activating. Hopefully that is the information you needed. Fergie wants to know, do you still recommend disabling air mode below 10% throttle like in your video from 3 years ago? No, I never did that. I made that video, and I thought it was a cool thing to do, and I thought it was like a cool way to show off how to use logical switches, but I never actually did that on any of my drones. You might want to do it. I don't do it. So that was never a daily thing for me. Sorry if that disillusions you. We got a $5 super chat from Fergie. Fergie asks, oh, that's the $5 super chat. Thank you for the super chat, Fergie. Caleb Turner just got a Radiomaster Pocket. Do I need to flash firmware? Blah, 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 blah. No, don't do any of that. It's fine the way it is. You do not need to do any of that. It's fine the way it is. Leave it alone. Now, if you want to flash it, you can. I might flash it, but I'm pretty confident I'm not going to brick anything. If it sounds fun to you to flash it, you can flash it. It probably didn't come with the latest version of EdgeTX, and it probably didn't come with the latest version of Express LRS. And I got to tell you, the latest version of EdgeTX, I don't think there's probably a big difference. But in Express LRS, they usually ship them with 3.3, and there's a few little things in 3.4 and 3.5 that it might be worth having. So I might update the Express LRS. But you don't have to. You absolutely do not have to. And you don't have to update the Lua script either way. It'll come with the V3 Lua script, and that's the latest. So if I sound a little frustrated by the question, please know that I'm not frustrated with you asking the question, but I'm a little frustrated because people assume that when they get new hardware, the very first thing they should do is flash it, and then they screw their shit up, and they get super frustrated, and they're like, I hate this hobby, it's terrible, and it's like, bro, it was fine. It was fine out of the box. You could have just used it. And they just don't know. So
Some people here might know that I do paid calls. I charge $50 an hour over Discord for paid calls. You can message. It's Blunty on Discord. Quick plug there. But just so you know, I would say 70% of the work that I do is because somebody flashed or messed up a new piece of hardware. I mean, it is so common, man. They can't, and then you can't find the file on Happy Model because you didn't do the backup because they don't have the exact right file that you need, and you don't know how to manually set it up, or you want to flash forward to 4.4 or 4.5 because you think you need to. Also, quick chance to bitch about iFlight. Why can you not just have 4.5 targets for every quad you have? I don't understand what we're doing.
Yeah.
There aren't even 4.4 targets for every quad they have. They're shipping O3 quads on 432.
And so they don't have a high definition OSD. Like if there was ever a reason to update to 4, is it 4.4 or 4.5? It's 4.4, right?
4.4 to get you HDOSD. How long has that been out?
It's criminal to ship a bind and fly today that's on 4.3 and doesn't support high definition OSD. And if they're like, yeah, but blah 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 blah, whatever. Shut up. You're a whole big company. Do your job. Okay, someone at iFlight is annoyed at me now. Well, that's okay.
When I spent 30 minutes yesterday looking for your things and I couldn't find them, and I've done this hobby for 5 years, and people pay me to troubleshoot, you have a problem. Turns out. Yeah.
So did you update them to 4.5 and reconfigure it from scratch, or did you just leave them how they were?
I manually did it because they needed HDOSD on their O3 because it's insane not to have shipping anyway.
Damn right. That is the biggest injustice in the world today. I'm being told that it's not. So, sorry about that. No, that's ridiculous. iFlight, do better. Do better, iFlight. Level 1 drone says he's getting Calib warning. Nothing worked. New flight controller never flown, etc., etc. Calib flashes on screen. So, just because it's a new flight controller doesn't mean it's not broken. And I know the implication is, surely this damn thing isn't broken. But if you're getting the Calib warning, and I'm going to guess that the drone is sitting still, that you're not like doing jumping jacks and going, why am I getting the Calib warning? Okay? I'm going to guess the drone is sitting still. So you power up the drone's sitting still, you get the Calib warning, never goes away. I mean, what could that be other than bad hardware? A bad gyro? Blunty? Anything to add? What could that be?
That sounds correct. I mean, if you did something weird to the configuration, back up and reflash and make sure you didn't do something weird.
Yeah. But, I mean, he says he did all the things I suggested, which would have included changing the calibration threshold to the maximum value. So presumably it was doing it before he tweaked that value.
Yeah.
Black Jungle, the accelerometer calibration won't trigger the Calib warning, only the gyro calibration, which happens automatically. Can the Calib warning come from a barometer not initializing? Okay, Sec 101, I don't know if that's true, but if that's true, we're being told that the compass not being calibrated will also give you Calib. Okay, so good input. What you need to do is go to the configuration tab and disable accelerometer, barometer, and magnetometer. Okay? And then see if the Calib warning goes away. And that will tell you your gyro is fine. If you disable all three of these things and the Calib warning still doesn't go away, you have an effed up gyro. And I think new flight controller is the answer. And if that makes the Calib warning go away, then re-enable them one by one and see which one causes the Calib warning to come back.
Just for educational purposes at the end of this little clip here that we'll do, I just want to let people know there is a way. It used to be called moron threshold. Now it's like gyro Calib limit, that you can increase the limit in Betaflight. But the reason it's set to the level it is because we want to see real noise on the gyro. So when we move that calibration number up, we're calibrating for noise. And then it's going to be, you're getting worse signal into the gyro and into the PID loop.
Agree. Yeah, you want a clean calibration. So if you have to change that threshold to just to get in the air, you can, but you'd rather not. So. Nabil wants to know, is 770 grams, blah, 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 too heavy for a 5-inch? No, that's a great weight for a 5-inch. 6S 1800 and a DJI Action 2. Hero 8 makes it 875 grams. That's too heavy. For my taste, it's too heavy. Other people would say it's fine. The Mario 5 is not a very heavy frame. It's not super light, but it's not super heavy. I would take that 6S 1800 and take it down to like 1300 or maybe even 1100. And that will get your weight. That will say like 1800. What's an 1800 6S? What's it weigh? Let's just get a rough. Here's a Tattoo R-Line V5. Can I see the product page? 287 grams. Yeah. So you're going to knock 50 grams off by going down to like a 1300 or an 1100. And that's going to be at around 720 grams. And to my mind, that is a great weight for a 5-inch. It's going to feel amazing to fly that thing. If you and again, same thing if you're going with the GoPro, it's going to be heavier, but it's going to be 50 grams lighter and well worth it. I personally would use a smaller battery, but if you must use that battery, I would use the lighter camera. That's my personal preference. I mean, 770 is pretty good for an 1800 milliamp hour battery. That's what I would say. I'd like it to be lighter. OAS visuals. You can run 1800 kV motors on 4S batteries. You'll just have basically like no top end. But it's still fun to fly. It's fine. You'll be fine. Like, don't buy 4S batteries, but if you happen to have some sitting around, go for it.
Very good for practicing, like throwing a quad around and controlling it, because you got to catch it.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see here.
Did we come to a conclusion on Hero 8 or Action 2? Is that a thing we came to a conclusion on?
Well, like the Action 2 can produce good results. Like Phantom FPV famously flies the Action 2 on like all his builds. He likes the durability and he thinks the image quality is okay. The exposure algorithm on the Action 2 drives me crazy. I hate it. I tried to switch to the Action 2 years ago. I bought a couple of Action 2s. I was like, I'm all in. I'm committed. I'm going to take this seriously. I hated the exposure algorithm going bright, dark. It had very bad low light sensitivity. In dark areas, the shadows were very dark, and the exposure algorithm kind of hunted. It was now maybe that's been fixed in a firmware update. It's been a long time since I did that, but that's I think been a consistent problem with that camera. So I would guess that it hasn't. Nevertheless, people whose opinion I respect get good results out of the Action 2, and it's significantly lighter than the Hero. Personally, I would just fly the O4 and skip the high-definition camera entirely unless I absolutely needed like a 4K image for some reason. That's what I would say.
Do you think... okay, let me ask you a question then while we're going this train. Why isn't the O3 the answer? What's wrong with the O3's image? And why is the O4 going to be the solution?
The O3, I think the O3 is the answer. The O4 is a little better.
Oh, okay.
But the O3 is the answer. Yeah.
Okay.
I would use the O3. I mean, the O3 can do 4K, but like, yes, okay, fine. But there are people who are going to say, I need a better image than the O3 can give me. I want a GoPro, right? And a GoPro is going to give better dynamic range, for example, better low light sensitivity, and a more tweakable image, better for color grading, etc. So... but you're going to pay a lot, 200 plus grams of weight to get the GoPro on there. Between the O3 and the Action, I would just take the O3. I don't think there's that much difference between the image that they produce and the weight. You save a significant amount of weight and price. So. Exiled FPV points out that if you were going to do that, you would probably want the dead cat frame to get your props out of view. That's valid. Is the RunCan Thumb on par with the O3 for SD card recording? See Joe. The Thumb can produce okay results, but no, I think the O3 images, that's tough. I'm not sure if the RunCam thumb has better dynamic range. I don't know. I don't have enough experience with the thumb. Some of those RunCam cameras have pretty good dynamic range. Their overall image quality is not like that great. Like I think the O3 produces a better image overall, but the dynamic range of the thumb might beat the O3. I'm not sure. In general, though, I would say I'd take the O3 image over the thumb, probably. Andrew Kennedy wants to know if I change PID tune when I add a GoPro. No. But what I will do, if I'm going to fly with a GoPro, I will PID tune with the GoPro on, so that then when I remove the GoPro, the PID tune is just a little more aggressive. But usually it's not so aggressive that like it puts me over the edge into oscillation. Let's see. Let's see. 10 more minutes in the stream. No super chats to read, so we'll keep going. On my Jumper T15, the RC channel output gets very noisy after powering on my Crossfire Nano TX. It's fluctuating from -2 to +2. Should I be concerned? That would concern me. A 4-point swing, I'd be concerned about that. Surely it's electromagnetic interference between the Crossfire antenna and the internals of the jumper. I'm not sure what you can do to fix this, though. Like,
Does
obviously,
that have anything to do with?
Yeah.
Does that have anything to do with ADC filtering? Or no?
Well, ADC filtering might filter some of that out, but like you shouldn't.
You don't want to use it.
You shouldn't see 4-point swing. That's like I think a 4-point swing is enough to maybe be noticeable in flight. Like if it was a 1-point swing, I might be like, meh. I don't know if you would notice that. I don't know what to tell you though. Like, if the radio was better shielded, would that happen? Is there a problem with like the way they've run the wires on the T15? Should you buy a new radio and test it with that module to see what happens? Can you borrow a different radio from a friend and just see if your T15 is like defective?
PetCEO has a good point. Maybe just try reducing crossfire power and see if that has any effect on the fluctuations to see if it's like a draw issue on the Beck. Yeah.
I would think reducing power would reduce the effect just because there's less energy coming out of the antenna. But then, of course, you've also got less range, and maybe you don't want to make that compromise.
Okay, here's a question. Is it possible that somehow he's drawing just enough to affect the Beck so it's like fluctuating, but he's not doing enough to pull it down so it doesn't kill it? So like, because Crossfire can pull 1 watt or 2 watts on the big module? If
that were the case, then I would plug in the external battery to the module so it's not pulling off the Beck inside the radio.
And try that.
Oh, God. He says ADC filter is on. Yikes. If you're seeing a 4-point swing with the ADC filter on, that's pretty bad.
Right. Well, just to be clear, that should be off, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, so like plug in the module to an external battery and see if that fixes it. And that would help rule out the possibility of a voltage regulator issue in the radio. I really think it's going to turn out that it's electromagnetic interference from the antenna. And the only solution is going to be to either turn down the Crossfire output power or move the module physically off the radio or get a different radio. That's unfortunately what I think you're going to end up finding. Also,
this is just out of the blue, but like, is it possible you have some weird Crossfire antenna that is shooting into the radio that wouldn't be, or you know what I mean? Like, because we've seen things like if you put your Crossfire antenna up to your goggle power cable, right, you'll lose video on some goggles, like they'll reboot or you'll have issues. So I'm just wondering, like, are you somehow interfering with the internals of the radio by the antenna of your Crossfire module? It's also something to consider.
Yeah.
You could test that by the external power because it would still happen and stuff.
Big Data Pimp points out that the Crossfire Micro doesn't have an external power adapter. Oops.
Yeah, just the big boy, yeah.
Just the big boy. If you've got the Micro, you're out of luck there. Yeah. Time to switch to Express LRS 2.4. Or a different radio. I mean,
Dev says the jumper is known to be sensitive to RF noise. If that is the case, then it may be what Joshua was saying, and it's just something you're going to have to put up with on that radio.
Yeah. All right. I got a super chat here from EEC Inaro, who asks, What size battery would you recommend for the iFlight Flick Wing with Speedy BF45 Wing Mini and Vista unit? iFlight Flick Wing. Well, I've never heard of that, so I can't really make a recommendation from personal experience. But I will Google it for you if you prefer. iFlight Flick Wing. Battery. I mean, this is a little insulting to you because probably you also Googled it, but I don't want to just blow you off because you super chatted $10. So the least I could do is just Google it for you. 2S Lipo Lion, but it does. That's shut the. I see the problem. Why the frick would you not give a weight or milliamp hours recommendation, you doofus?
Whose kit is this? This is somebody's kit, right? We showed this on stream one time, and this is somebody help me. Somebody put this together. I showed this
there's
somewhere.
A build. Kickstarter. Successful Kickstarter campaign. Assemble my flick. Please include your order number.
Yeah, we have a clip from 8 months ago where we talk about the flick ring.
Did we talk about what kind of battery it uses? Build and basic setup. Introducing the Flickwing Kickstarter. Okay, build and basic setup. Surely this will show...
Welcome to the build video for the...
It's RC Test Flight's Kickstarter. That's what's going on. I couldn't remember where it was from.
I love RC Test Flight, but I'm annoyed that I can't find an answer to this question. This is probably why this guy's super chatting me. Come on, buddy. Show me the dang battery. USB.
I found that build with an 1100 milliamp hour 6S, but I don't know, you know.
No, it says recommended 2S. That doesn't add up. It's, I mean, I believe you. Oh my God, you're hand building your own Z-bends. Wow. Well, that looks fun. Oh my God, look at that. Look at all the work he's doing on that rod. He's working that rod. Ooh, he's sticking that rod through the hole in the servo arm. Sorry, I got a little distracted. Put the freaking battery in. Put the battery in. Show me the battery. Ah, there it is. It's a 2S. It's a 2S 18650, right? So it's 2S 3000 milliamp hour. Is that an 18650 or a 21700? Oh, I'm so close. Oh. That looks like a 21700 to me.
The audio clips of this stream, somebody could really do some work.
I know, I'm just fucking around. So, is it in the video description maybe? Oh, there's the battery. Boy, that looks like a 21700 to me. It looks like that doesn't look like an 18... Oh! Maybe it's an 18650. I changed my mind. So, I'm going to guess that it is a 2S. Oh, you guys can't see any of this. I'm so sorry. Blunty, why don't you tell me they couldn't see this? I just want to blame somebody. It's not your fault. It's not your job. I think we have... I'm going to show you guys. You could judge for yourself. To me, this looks like a 2S 18650. In which case, it would be a 2S 3000 milliamp hour lithium-ion battery. If you... Surely, if you bought a 21700 at 5000 milliamp hours, it would still fly fine. But it's going to be a 2S 3000-ish milliamp hour with 18650 batteries. And once again, no one actually says what battery it is. I just have to I got a super chat out of it, so I guess I shouldn't complain. Why do people not think that people need to know this information? How in the frick is this not... You need a receiver. Cool. Everything you need. Cool. What battery do I need? Nah. You figure it out. Just guess. Battery recommendation, 2S LiPo. Oh, well, I just bought a 2S 20,000 milliamp hour. It weighs 5 kilograms. No? Oh, that's what you said? Oh, yeah. Okay, anyway. blah, blah, blah.
I found a video from who I think is the people who made it, and it says 18650s. So.
Okay. So 2S 18650, it's going to be about 3,000 to 3,500 milliamp hours depending on the cell, blah, 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 blah. Here we go. Awesome. What's your PID tuning process, Matty Cow Patty? I start with the defaults, and if I'm happy, I just get on with my life and I enjoy flying the drone. If I want to PID tune, sometimes I just do some manual tweaks with very little actual logic and probably make things worse rather than better, but sometimes I improve things. If you want recommendations for PID tuning, I suggest you look up Brian White. Brian White on YouTube. He does PID Toolbox, PID Toolbox is his tool, and he does tutorials on using PID Toolbox to PID tune, and that to me is like the gold standard for PID tuning right now. Chris Rosser has a PID tuning series as well that's a little more rough and tumble. Brian White's is much more in-depth and can get better results on a wider variety of airframes. But those are the two guys I would say to look at.
You should also know PID Toolbox is now a paid service through Patreon, but he has been updating it constantly and making it a lot better. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's the gold standard. I think it's worth paying for, and I don't begrudge him at all the work that he's putting into it. Chris Rosser, PID tuning, he has a series. Actually, I think he just updated it for Betaflight 4.5. Or if you really want the gold standard, Brian White. I will say, here's what I'll say. So Phantom FPV, I probably should just let him drop this info, but I hope he will forgive me if I drop this info. No one's watching this live stream anyway. Phantom Bunty, don't make a live stream clip out of this if you were gonna. Thank you. Phantom FPV flies KISS Ultra flight controllers, but he also flies other stuff too. He flies a lot of stuff, but he's like on his personal birds, he flies KISS Ultra. I don't know if he flies it exclusively, but he does fly it. He loves KISS. And he has said, whether in public or in private, his opinion is that KISS flies way better than Betaflight. He loves KISS. And Betaflight, like, he recently did some studying of Brian White's PID tuning methods. And kind of taught himself how to PID tune using PID Toolbox, and said that using those methods, he got, with a lot of work, he got a Betaflight bird to fly pretty close to as good as KISS Ultra. And so, like, I know that's a radical thing to say, and I don't want to sort of take his steam or put words in his mouth. But if you are like, oh, is PID Toolbox worth getting? Is Brian White full of shit? That's a pretty strong endorsement, I thought, and I was pretty amazed to hear him say that. So I'll tease that there. So got one more super chat from here from a Kiefer who asks, do most set the Betaflight camera angle or just cross control? Most just cross control and do it manually. They do not use that setting. That setting is for more extreme cases, I think, but most people just do it, with their fingers. Ciati FPV is going to be streaming right now because we've come to 10 o'clock and this is the end of the stream. Ciati is going to put the link to the stream right here. You could go ahead on over there. That's going to do it for us. We'll see you this coming Sunday on our next stream, and have a good night, everybody. Have a great stream, Ciati.
Bye,
everybody.